eventually go live, which is now. Okay. And we're live here with Champ Chat, ladies and gentlemen. Today, my guest is another recent winner at a ROC tournament. This is Tim Bold. Say hello to everybody, Tim.
How's everyone doing?
Now, Tim, you recently won the Super Qualifier down in Kentucky, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start like we do with the rest of our champs that we have on the show. Let's start about your early. Let's start by talking about your early days of Heroclix. When you started, how you started, and how you got into competitive play. And yeah, take it away.
Sure. So I've been playing since clobbering time, so I've been around this game a very long time. So played casually locally for quite a while, and then me and a bunch of buddies went to Wizard World Philly 2007, and I competed in that event. I gave the competitive world a shot, and I did pretty well. I ended up getting second place. So I thought to myself, wow, you know what? I can play with these guys. So ever since then, I've been competing on the world stage, nationals, big tournaments around the Midwest. I've been to pretty much all of them. So I've been competing on the main stage for quite a while now.
Yeah. Now, your name is one that comes up quite a bit in quite a few tournaments that I've come across. I've been kind of on the outside looking in for a long time in this game. I've only recently started getting competitive myself this year. So, being out there and being in the events, are you going to more of the ROC tournaments to kind of develop your skills, or is your local metagame or your local tournaments very high in competitive play?
I judge at two different venues, and I make it a pretty big point to play a lot of fun stuff. We play a lot of thematic stuff, and we do a lot of sealed type events. So we really don't do a lot of meta practice per se. But the ROC was an opportunity to try out a few pieces that I haven't played in a while. So it was a pretty good warm-up. I mean, Nationals is the really big stage coming up in April. We'll certainly be going down there with a pretty big crew, so that's kind of the next big step for us.
Excellent. Now, you say you play with a regular group, which is actually a kind of exciting idea that I've been hearing a lot of team talk lately. Coming from Magic and versus myself, there was always teams, people you collaborate to build decks, and in this case, build teams. When you're doing that with your team, are all you guys kind of looking for that one great team, or do you kind of work to everybody's style in a game like Heroclix and make sure everybody's playing a team that they can do well with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've actually got a pretty good group of players in Northeast Ohio. A lot of people like to start branding themselves, have different team names. We kind of like to fly below the radar a little bit, but we've got a very strong group in Northeast Ohio. Generally, we kind of play to people's strengths. We kind of let people play what they want and see how it does, and we'll kind of tell people if their pieces are doing well, if it makes sense. But at the end of the day, people kind of play what they want to play. So we all have their very different styles, and a lot of times our teams kind of reflect that.
Excellent. And I've noticed there's one or two teams out there. I can't really name names because I don't know their names, but I do notice that there's quite often a group that does show up to regular tournaments together, and they do often seem to play the same thing. So I just wanted to make sure or see if other groups are doing that, engaging in that same practice. Now, having played some of the more familiar faces in Heroclix, having been around to more and more of the tournaments and some, is there a particular favorite player you like to play against, or are there any players that kind of stand out to you as really, really standout players?
I've been around the block long enough that I've pretty much, you named them at the top of the levels, I've played them. I would say the single best player I've ever played against is the world champion George. By far one of the toughest players I've had to play against, and I've played against him multiple times. A really great guy. Really knows his stuff, and what's scary about him is he comes up with the combos and stuff that no one else is thinking about. Makes him a really tough player to play against.
Absolutely, and I do recognize that his style is never really what everybody else is playing. If everybody else is playing something, he's got something way off the radar. And those of our fans who aren't quite familiar, who George Masu is a past world champion who, when he won, he built the Black Adam that we saw in the Superman set. and he has actually made the finals for 3 separate world events, including 2. I believe it's 2 modern and 1 golden age. He
Right.
actually played against Jake Williams in the last golden age tournament they had. So he's been around, and he's on my list of top players to play against, including himself. He's on the top of the list for sure, as well as Patrick, because I've been in the same tournament as him, but never got a chance to play with him. So what I want to go through now is the tournament that got you here.
Sure.
The one over at I believe this was run by Two-Headed Giants. Two-Headed Games. Sorry.
Yep.
So take us through the early rounds, the Swiss rounds, and then we'll go in depth. I have the page loaded up with all the teams that were there, and go in. Give us a story, if you will.
Yeah. Let me talk about my team a little bit. It was kind of a theory crafting. We never actually practiced the team. After we run Friday night Clicks events, and afterwards me and a few buddies went out to eat, and we kind of just talked about like what pieces we wanted to play, combos we wanted to try. So my team was Banshee, Brother Voodoo, Maximus, Loki, and Blind Owl. And honestly, it was one of the funnest tournament teams I've ever played because it has so many options. Banshee can attack and shut down people, their defenses, the super senses, the invulnerability, impervious, invincible. And Maximus is just so much fun to play. Those alpha primitives just do way too much damage for 30-point add-in pieces. A lot of fun to play that team. So the tournament it was surprising how many people showed up. There were 70, I think, in the main tournament, but there were 80 people there in total. Wow. So it was a huge field. We ended up having to play 9 rounds, 5 Swiss, and then 4 single elimination. So it was a very long day. Yeah. But honestly, the people running it did a great job just keeping it moving along because, 9 rounds, 9 hours, it was a very long day, but great people to play against. The nice thing about playing in Kentucky is they have a really strong clicks contingency. They have a lot of local players, and they all travel to these tournaments. So a lot of them knew each other. It was a great group of players, great group of guys. Every single one of my matches, it was a fun match. It was fun to play against them. No rules, lawyers, anything like that. So, yeah, it was a great experience.
That's really good to hear, actually, with an event these size. Because oftentimes you hear that there's a mixture of some people that, there's some dinks and then there's some jerks or some incidents. When you hear an event that says absolutely none, that's the greatest thing to hear about. So I'm really excited and even in a group of 70 people, which is very close to, 80 people that showed up for the whole thing, which is actually about the same as the Majestics regional. So,
yeah.
But were there any teams when you were playing in the Swiss rounds that caught you off guard, were shocking? How did you do in the Swiss rounds? Because sometimes some of the guys don't have the best records going in.
Yeah, I was one of the 2 undefeateds in the Swiss round, so I went 5-0. The team that I played in the 3rd round was really interesting combo. It was Rainbow Raider with the Edward Nigma. The concept is, especially if you're playing against a tent pole, Rainbow Raider is going to do -1 to all your stats, and Enigma can do another perplex or another. So if you're playing a one-man army, all of a sudden you can have a -2 to a lot of your stats. So it was a really clever idea. That was probably the most surprising. I think one of the strongest teams I played in Swiss, which I actually ended up having to play again in the single elimination, was a Super Scroll Engineer team. Again, that has a lot of flexibility. And it was a really neat idea they did. They actually have a card with a bunch of washers with different colors. So they can put, for different speed, attack, they put the different colors on the card for you. So everyone remembers exactly what powers are being taken, because with Super Scroll Engineer, there's just a lot of flexibility. Yeah, so that was a really tough team to play against.
I find myself, I've been testing that team a bit myself, and I've been so confused every time. It's like, wait, right. What did I give him again? Engineer had the witch and the...
Yeah. So that was a really clever idea they had.
Yeah. I like trying to do things like that, marking things for my opponent, making sure that they have as much information as I have, and they're not caught off guard. One of my favorites was using talisman bases with my bystanders to kind of stand them up so my opponents can see that there's a bystander in front of a character, and then the stats are just plain as day for them.
Okay.
So I have the matchups here from the top 16. So let's go match by match. Tell us how it went. Your first round was against Jason Allen. Now that's a name I swear is it Jason Allen?
Yep.
That's a name I've heard before.
Yeah, he's actually we've seen him around before. He's a very good player. I believe my buddy Pappy lost to him at Nationals. Um, so I think he's placed top 8 at multiple ROCs as well. He had a really unique team. He had Ron Vidar, he had Sarah Rainmaker Turtle, and I think Brother Voodoo was his team.
Yep.
And really neat combo. And it's something we've seen from him multiple times. He likes, if you're not familiar with Sarah Rainmaker, her third click, she has a defensive power where characters more than 5 squares away can't target them. And it was similar to what he played at Nationals, where I think he had the Midnight Suns ATA, which again I guess makes people unable to target them. So the concept is Sarah Rainmaker runs around and moves 4 than 4 spaces, so Turtle gives her tokens. He pushes very quickly to that third click, and all of a sudden you can't target him. So I did not see that coming, honestly. I did not know what Sarah Rainmaker did. So it was a bit of an uphill battle, but I ended up prevailing. Just that match was crazy because the dice were crazy. Before the match, they gave us all ROC dice, and everyone's first rolls were just like 10s, 11s, 12s. It was crazy. We were just hitting each other left and right. So it ended up being a fun match, and it ended up being very close, but Banshee was just a little bit too much in the end.
Awesome. Now, I know this is actually a common standard. Even when I went to Canadian Nationals, they started handing out the dice. Are they also still handing out the cups at the Super Qualifiers to go with the dice? They were.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's a very cool idea myself. Just kind of taking away that idea, because there's been accusations of people kind of fiddling around with the dice in their hands in a certain way that gets certain results, and that just takes any kind of accusation out. The dice are 100% neutral, and the cups make it completely a complete mystery every time.
Yep.
Yeah. So your next round, I'm gonna have to use the actual text up here to get this name correct, because it looks like I could easily mess it up. This is Brandon Niedenbach.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah, his team was Super Squirrel, Weasel, Engineer, Blind Owl.
Yeah, that was the team I mentioned earlier, and the first match we had in the Swiss was one of my closest matches. I mean, I ended up prevailing. He one-shotted my brother Voodoo, but the Alpha Primitives, again, got in there and did some work. The second match wasn't as close, and the reason for that is I won map roll. And the trick on my team is there is a certain map that I have dubbed Banshee's Paradise, because the map is absolutely brutal to play against Banshee. It's the War of Light final map with 6 different elevations.
That'd be really...
The entire map is elevated. And Banshee ignores elevations when he shoots, so that map is just absolutely devastating. And I got that map, and the Super Scroll couldn't do much. He moves out, he gets shot, so I was able to get first strike.
That's actually a pretty brilliant choice map with a character like Banshee. A lot of people, when they saw that map, they instantly went to Weather Wizard, and not a lot of people thought about characters like Banshee, or even the super rare, what's his name, Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Fiddler can really have a field day on that map with all that elevated there. Because all those characters have the fact that they ignore elevated all in common. So, all right, so we go to Brandon. Your next opponent is, is that a John? Yeah, it is John. John Cadillac. His team was Captain Marvel, Harley Quinn, Despotellus, Banshee, and a Bat Cycle. How'd that match go?
It was an okay match. He ended up getting map choice, so he chose the submarine map, which the Alpha Primitives really like because it's close combat for him. He did get first shot. I kind of intentionally left my Banshee out there, so he would take the bait and take the shot. And then he can't one-shot Banshee. I'm going to shut down all his defenses, and the Alpha Primitives just went in there and kind of had a field day. Those Alpha Primitives, if they can get 11, 12 attacks, they're tough to deal with, and they're doing a lot of damage. So he shot Banshee. He actually missed the attack, and then the Alpha Primitives went in there and really just cleaned up.
All right, and then we get into the final match. Now, this is when I saw the team that got second, I soiled myself. I'm at a point where if anybody asks me if I have a tachyon, I ask back if they already have one.
Sure.
Your second place was Howard Brock. I've talked, for those of you who watch the channel, you know I've complained about this team many times. Tim is the man who defeated it. It is Turtle, Moira McTaggart, Highfather, Hope Summers, and Blind Owl. How did you take it to this beast of a team? I have to know.
So what's amazing about the match is I'm sitting there looking at the team. I figured out what it did pretty quickly, and I'm joking around with Howard. I've known Howard for years now. It's like, can we play 2 out of 3? Because I've got one thing I want to test and see if it works, and I just have no idea. Howard joking like, nope, 1 shot and that's all you get. So end up playing the match. He gets map choice, which kind of hurt me. He played the Deadpool map, the indoor map.
Yep.
So he could kind of hide a little bit. And my initial idea, I think, would have worked great, but I missed the roll. So my initial idea is what works like really well against Turtle is TK. Maximus has TK.
Yep.
So TK Brother Voodoo, and then Loki moves Maximus up, turn 1. Turn 2, I TK Brother Voodoo. Brother Voodoo phases 4 spaces right into his area, and then tries to mind control Highfather. The idea was to mind control Highfather. It was an 11 out of 17. I missed it. But the idea was to mind control Highfather, phase him back, have Loki transport or move an attack, hit Highfather, Pact is broken, and then Banshee can clean up.
Yeah.
But I missed the roll. So Brother Voodoo's sitting there, and he gets 2 tachyons.
Oh, no.
Next strategy that you have to do against that team is I mind controlled Highfather. You have to kill a supporter. Moira was my #1 target. Yeah. And the reason is that all of a sudden he can't get 2 full tachyons out there. So he's got 1 tachyon on click 2. He's going to have another tachyon on click 4. All of a sudden it's a manageable matchup.
Yeah.
So that was the second idea. So I killed Moira, and then it's slowly moving up and getting my pieces ready to attack. I definitely have 2 alpha primitives out there by then. I've got Brother Voodoo. I've got Banshee. And really, Banshee at that point is all about shutting off his invincible, shutting off his defenses. And again, those alpha primitives, Maximus lets them move 4 spaces. Turtle has no issues with that. And then they charge in for 4 more, and they're cracking people pretty hard, especially without invincible. So that's essentially how the match went. But that team is absolutely brutal to play against.
Yeah, I can imagine it being just a tad bit frightening to have to look at. Now, I have to ask one question about your team because I feel like I might be missing it, or I'm not quite sure what's supposed to go. Where does Blind Owl fit into the entirety of your strategy? Is she kind of filling in points, or is there? I'm not sure which of your characters would be better on second click. I might not know Maximus' style that well, though.
For the most part, Blind Owl is a pretty important part of the team. A lot of times what I can do is I can get an Alpha Strike with Banshee, and Perplex is huge, especially for 13 points. Yeah. 2 other options that I have with Blind Owl. One is there's quite a few Despotellus. I can't tell you how many times in the tournament I have someone next to Despotellus move him into my starting area and ask him, is Despotellus going to follow me? With Blind Owl sitting right there. So it's great for taking care of Despotellus. And Banshee does get Pulse Wave on a second click. So in case I need it, I can always put him on that second click. That rarely comes up, but it's another option for me.
Yeah. So I see now that what you're thinking of on it was it because it wouldn't have been a figure that would have instantly gone into my head to put in there. So actually, very good thinking with regards to that. Sometimes some people have more 3-dimensional thinking around what they're building, and when you're looking from the outside in, you don't see it immediately. And sure. Right. So now you've already answered. I'm going to go to our fan questions because a lot of them are centered around, of course, the game and this tournament. But of course, the first one is how you were able to deal with Howard's team. So I think you answered that one to the greatest possible degree. What was your first? You said your first strategy was to get what's his name?
Highfather.
To mind control Mountain. The other strategy was to take out Moira McTaggart. So you had 2 backup plans. Had 2 plans, went to the backup plan, and it worked for you. The next one, this is more of a not specific to the tournament, but what from Trinity War, out of everything that's been spoiled for Trinity War, is there anything you see it instantly goes, this is going to be in competitive play without a shadow of a doubt?
Wow. Fair question. The piece that we've been kind of talking about locally is Johnny Quick. CSA built, not the Fast Force, the 82.1 from the set. The ability to go 12-5 hypersonic, ignore hindering and characters with CSA built in seems pretty good. Yeah, honestly, seems pretty good. It's not bad. Not bad. But with all the entities and power boosts and stuff right now, there's a lot of ways to get 12.5. So it's kind of just a theory that where it's out there, but we don't actually know until we play it. Is it more cost efficient than other stuff?
Okay. Yeah, that's very fair. I saw that and also kind of said 82 points for 12 attack, 5 damage.
That's not bad.
I might be able to squeak it into something.
Yeah.
What interesting teams at the event did you see? Like, what you talked about some of the ones that you came across. Maybe something you saw at another table was really interesting to you or really stuck out to you, and how do they compare to teams that you play regularly at your venue?
Yeah, it's way different than we play regularly. We never play competitive stuff. We rarely play competitive stuff for our venue. So most of the stuff it's competitive and fun are completely different, and generally don't see a lot of overlap in terms of pieces. Actually, one of our local players played a very similar Highfather team. It was Highfather, but it had 3 blind elves. The concept is you can very quickly jump them out of your area and turn into tachyons. So it's another spin on Howard's team that I think is very, very effective, and that was a very clever team I didn't see coming.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. And I believe that was actually it for the fan questions. Okay, yeah. So I have to ask next going in, what future plans for competitive tournaments do you have? I know there's lots of ROCs going on all over the place, almost like one a week. We're almost at that point of one a week. Are you doing a lot of traveling? You mentioned you're going to nationals.
Yeah. The next big event for us is the ROC in Windsor. We're going to be coming up for that. We've got a couple of my friends are coming up as well. And from my understanding, we're actually going to get a pretty decent amount of players from Detroit coming up as well. So honestly, there's going to be a lot of very solid players coming up to that Windsor tournament. So kind of looking forward to it. Not sure what I'm going to play yet, but I think that's going to be a great tournament.
Yeah.
So that's kind of next on the list.
It sounds like a big creme de la creme going to be there. I mean, you're going to be there. George mentioned that he was coming.
He is coming, yep.
And some guy who runs a YouTube channel is going to be there too.
Okay.
His wife is judging.
His wife is judging. So yeah, wow. I look forward to meeting you over there too now.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yep. Excellent. Now, with regards to Nationals no longer being in a convention because they've moved it to move Worlds to Origins, Nationals to the a store in Baltimore, I believe, or just outside of Baltimore.
Yeah, outside of Baltimore.
Yeah. Do you like the idea of not having to trudge through a convention to get to the tournament or be in a convention? Do you think the idea that's going to work? How do you feel about it in general?
So we've been going to a great tournament out in that exact same store for the last 3 or 4 years called Clixathon. It's run, most of the top judges, that's where they live, that's where they play, and it's one of the great tournaments that we go to. Tons of prizes, great event, great venue. So for us, it's kind of like going to Clixathon every year. It's the exact same spot. I kind of like the idea it's not at a convention. Origins isn't too bad, but Gen Con can get kind of pricey. This will be a lot more cost effective. And the city's not bad. The Glen Burnie's okay. So I'm kind of looking forward. The nice thing about playing for so long, you develop a lot of relationships. You have a lot of friends in the Clix world. So it's really just an opportunity to hang out with all the friends that we made over the years. So good, looking forward to seeing everyone and playing.
Excellent. Actually, this one seemed to run up a little short. I'm out of questions.
Okay.
Anything you want to plug? Any of your local stores, local venues, local events coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm judging 2 different places. As of right now, I believe one of the shops I'm judging is going to be the state championship for Ohio. The shop is Empire Game Center. We're currently in the application process, so anyone watching, get ready. We're going to have the state championship right here in Cleveland. So that's pretty exciting.
Excellent.
Looking forward to that. We've got, like I mentioned before, we've got a ton of great players in this area, but kind of depending on where the other one's at, Pittsburgh, Detroit, bring them all on. Let's see how many people we can get out here.
Yep.
So I'm pretty excited for that.
We've local venues actually in the application process right now as well for the Ontario Provincial, running on the same weekend, of course, as all the other states. So we're really excited that they're doing this whole one big weekend of qualifier tournaments to kind of have everybody in there. I guess it doesn't really facilitate a lot of traveling, but it's really cool for all of us to have that one person that kind of stands out and says, "I went to the provincials and won."
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah, but I'm still hoping that, with Saturday, Sunday, we could still try to make one or two if they're in the area. Making two would be fun.
Yep.
So we just have to kind of coordinate in the area and make sure we can get multiple events or something like that. But honestly, for the ROC's perspective, this is a fantastic idea. This is something WizKids probably should have done a while ago.
Mhm.
This is more competitive play. This is like regional events. I remember, I've been playing so long, I don't know if you remember, but do you remember those like regional events that WizKids used to run? And they were pre-releases? You remember like Legacy and Ultimates and
I remember being
unbelievably
jealous of the regionals being up here in Canada, and we got so excited when we got the pre-releases. We crapped ourselves like, pre-releases, yes!
Yeah.
So we've just kind of only recently kind of entered into the fold of the bigger things with the Canadian Nationals last year, and I know the regionals did kind of try to happen in our area, but it's getting better up here. That's definitely.
Sure. It feels like there's a pretty big Clix contingency out in British Columbia, so I was a little surprised to see Quebec get the national championship.
Yeah,
but actually, one of our local players, Northeast Ohio, Nick Peterson, was actually the one who went up to Canada and won.
Yeah, thanks for sending him.
Yeah, no problem.
Damn you, Pearson.
Yeah.
Our gift to you.
The Carta Magic is actually a store that operates both in Quebec and in Ontario. The national champions happen in our nation's capital, Ottawa, which is in Ontario. But I think Carta Magica already had a pre-existing relationship with
Okay.
They did something with some prizing at Fan Expo, I had heard, and then they kind of got the nationals. And I did enjoy the venue, and I would travel again. It's not a terrible trip. 4 hours isn't that bad to go to something for like nationals. And yes, there are a lot of really good players out on the West Coast, especially if you talk about Patricia, Rob Barazul, and their group are all really good players, and they come and wreck house every time we see them. So.
Yeah, we know them very well. Rob is one of the toughest players I played against. Definitely one of the top 5 players in the world. Near impossible to beat him. I've never beat him before. Patricia's a very, very good player as well. She's actually considering a move to Cleveland, so she may be joining our contingency pretty soon. So, which is pretty exciting for us. We're getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, that's a scary idea that you had that one pocketed area of so many great Heroclix players, and all of them can practice against each other. That's
well, what's amazing about our group, if you've ever run into us in conventions, we're the laid-back group.
Mm-hmm.
So we get together, we play probably 2-3 times a month, and when we get together, even before a major tournament, we're like, yeah, we should probably practice. But I've got this really fun 500-point team I want to play, and we very rarely end up practicing a lot. We're always playing thematic and not competitive stuff. That's kind of how we go. So a lot of these teams that are out there, they play really competitive meta stuff all the time. That's not our group. We're kind of in it for, the game itself, which is a little bit different. But at the end of the day, I have fun. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you kind of mentioned that you do have the occasional lapse in practice. Do you have a regular group that gets together to practice and come up with the ideas? And do you have like a regular day, or is it usually just we came up with the idea, might not have practiced it too heavily?
Yeah, it's more the latter. It's the we kind of just theory craft a lot via text message, or when we get together, we just talk about a lot of combos and teams. And for the most part, we're good enough players that we kind of know what it does, so we don't practice a lot. Out of my group, I would say I'm the least lazy. I have a very lazy play group. I'm the crazy guy who builds like 12 teams and then plays a bunch and then sees what works, and which helps me understand dials and whatnot and kind of what I enjoy playing and what I'm comfortable playing. But for the most part, our group doesn't really spend a lot of time practicing or playing meta. This is not how we roll.
Yeah. It's one of those things I've noticed is every group or every player has their different habits. Always good to hear that there are some different habits, and some guys are a little bit more diligent. In my group, I'm the guy that tries to get everybody to practice, and then I think I have a couple good ideas that I want to run, and then it turns out that I end up becoming the punching bag because I have enough of the figures that everybody can practice against the common teams. So I have to do what everybody else has played, and I'm usually generally pretty good at picking it up and practice and being able to see what it does immediately so that they understand all the problems that they're going to run into. So I've kind of become that guy. That and my wife won't practice with me anymore because.
Well, yeah, it happens.
But yeah, I want to say thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. And good luck in any further tournaments, American Nationals, any further Super Qualifiers, and at your state championships.
Sure.
I hope to have to, talk to you again maybe soon.
Yeah, maybe after Windsor, right?
I'd say maybe, maybe we'll split. If I'm really lucky, you can interview me because I don't have anybody I can. But thank you very much for joining us, Tim. Everybody, I just want to say thanks for joining us on the show this week. If you're watching the archive, or if you're watching live even, don't forget that the Windsor Super Qualifier is happening on March 7th in Windsor, Ontario at the Ambassador Golf Club, or Golf and Country Club. And if you look it up on Facebook, there's a big page to get all the information. There's a big document with all the information that you need. We're gonna try. I might put it in the description below immediately after I post this video. In the meantime, everybody have a good week, and remember, practice makes your teams better.